In 1995, Sister Maria Rosa visited our club to thank us for our past financial support. Through the organization that she started, Sociedad Amigos de los Niños, her mission was to rescue thousands of children living in the streets in Honduras. She shared with us how she had developed several orphanages where street children could get the love, nurturing, and training they were lacking. She filled us in on her latest project of giving single moms living in the street with their children a place to live and a productive job so that they could support themselves. The village, Nuevo Paraiso, nestled in the mountains 2 hours from Tegucigalpa, became the haven for single moms and their children to have the opportunity to become productive members of society. At the time, there were several houses and a school. To provide employment and to help with sustainability, they had an agricultural operation, a bakery, and a furniture-making shop. Our club had the desire to continue to help out, and in February of 1996, my wife Sheila and I went to Honduras to visit the sister. We saw what they were doing and how our club could be involved. This resulted in our participation with the Rotary Club of Tegucigalpa in the redevelopment of a brick-making facility. The operation would provide employment for mothers and their older children, and the profits to help with the further development and sustainability of the village. The $63,000 project provided a new brick-making machine, a generator to provide power during frequent outages, sun-stage structures for drying, kilns to fire the bricks, and a truck to haul the raw materials from elsewhere on the property. The Rotary Club of Barrie put up $11,550. The District 7010 Share Program, $4,200. The Rotary Foundation matched those two with $15,750. And CRCID, the Canadian government, matched the total for $31,500, giving the $63,000. This self-sustaining project, which our club was recognized by Rotary International, has provided employment for 35 people and helped support the further development of the village. It played a large role in the rebuilding of Honduras after Hurricane Mitch. This project has helped many people become productive citizens and has further enhanced Rotary's Foundation's goal of world understanding and peace.
Each year, Georgian College nursing teachers take 16 nursing students to Consuelo in the Dominican. Many students as well will visit Oca, an area in the mountains. These second-year nursing students fund, raise, and pay their own way for this 9-day trip, which costs each one of them about $1,600. During this trip, they work closely with the Grey Nun Sisters and doctors and nurses. They travel to remote areas, sugarcane plantations, which are called betes, where they run 3 to 4 busy clinics. Often 300 people arrive at the clinic, including elders, families with children, and infants. They assess and treat everyone, often an entire community. It is common for them to see many wounds, skin conditions, respiratory conditions, high blood pressure, as well as many have parasites related to contaminated water. During the course of the week, they learn about the needs of the people, health care, and the culture of the people. Most of the recipients of care are Haitians who have come to work in the sugarcane plantations. The people are very grateful for the nurses' care, but most of all, they teach the nurses. The nurses are humbled by their gratefulness and their family and community support. It is difficult to put into words the impact of this trip on students and teachers alike. One student who has graduated from York quotes, "The experience is one that I find hard to put into words, as the impact that it has had on my life is one that will stay with me forever, throughout my personal life as well as throughout my career as a nurse." The support from Rotary is very appreciated. 100% of the donation will reach the communities in the form of medical supplies, mostly medications that are purchased to treat the conditions that we see. Thank you, Rotary, for your assistance.
In September of 2011, 4 members of the Rotary Club of Barrie visited Fort Severn on Hudson Bay. Upon arriving, we didn't know what to expect. What we found was a self-reliant and vibrant community with shared responsibilities and governance split amongst the band. Coordination and compensation is organized by the band. Ever since control and maintenance of the water treatment facility was given to the band, their plant is one of the most state-of-the-art and well-run facilities in the North. We spent a day in school, learning Cree and meeting the teachers and the students. The library was well stocked with books. But we did observe a lack of science program supplies. The tundra and Severn River is the life source for the residents of Fort Severn. Our tundra expedition gave us an idea of what everyday life is like for the Fort Severn community. Heading home, we reflected on this inspiring and dedicated community, committed to preserving their ancient culture and language.
The Rotary Club of Barrie's International Committee has involvement around the world with other Rotary clubs. The aim is to develop relationships with Rotary clubs primarily in third world countries where aid projects can provide a lasting benefit to those in need. One method of development is through a friendship exchange. In the summer of 2010, our district 7010 hosted 6 families from El Salvador who belong to 3 clubs in the city of San Salvador. Following their visit to our community, an invitation was sent from the 3 clubs in El Salvador to our district to visit and see opportunities for future international funding projects. Banners from all 3 clubs were brought back to our club. Our host provided an opportunity to meet each club at their weekly meetings. Our host prepared daily excursions and evening informal dinner meetings. Our tour bus, along with capable security, was provided daily. Fellow Rotary Club members from local clubs, along with Sandy and Terry Martin from our district, enjoyed this exchange. Architecturally, the country has Spanish roots, with many elaborate, decorated buildings, which also included the Parliament building. Culturally, this country primarily has only 2 races, being Aboriginal and Spanish. A large export of the country is cocoa and cashews, grown locally, as well as coffee, cotton, and bananas. Several volcanoes, both active and inactive, are present in this small country. At great difficulty, our hosts showed their true pleasure of our visit and provided a message for our club at the volcano floor. We hope our involvement with El Salvador will give us an opportunity in the future to do new projects with you as members participating.
The opportunity for international service is really not limited to being involved in what your individual club is doing. In 2010, I found on the internet that there was Polio Plus mission going to India in February, and I asked if I could go, and they said sure. So it was a collection of Rotarians from Ontario, Michigan, Florida, Iowa, and there were other teams made up of Rotarians from Russia, France, the USA, New Zealand, Denmark, and England that were there at the same time. You don't have to be a professional doctor, lawyer, or Indian chief to be of service as a Rotarian. All you really need to do is be willing to serve. Our training was very straightforward. Our team leader, Bob Gallagher, said, repeat after me. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you're trained. That's all it takes. You just have to drop 3 drops of polio vaccine into a child's mouth. So February 7th was National Immunization Day, and we ended up in a tiny village, Tyre in India, in Uttar Pradesh, and there were over 300,000 children targeted for polio drops that day. 65% of the children were given the drops on the Sunday, and there was a door-to-door campaign that followed on Monday and Tuesday. This was one of 10 national immunization days that were scheduled for India that year, and I was really proud to be part of it. We've heard a lot about Polio Plus and been asked to donate a lot of money, but it's really satisfying to be there on the ground to give the 3 drops of vaccine to a child. But after the work is done, we had an amazing trip around India and saw many interesting and fantastic things. We saw the Delhi Eye Hospital, one of the clubs that was involved in the trip had funded cataract operations at that hospital for $25 each, and we got to go into the operating room and see it done. We went to the Jaipur Foot Clinic to see where they give prosthetic limbs for $25 to people who have lost their limbs. It's quite common in India because Indians are hopping on and off moving trains all the time. It was, again, extremely satisfying to be part of that, to make a difference in the world.
Team Jamaica was conceived and put together by team leader Don Straka, and on April the 29th, 2007, we all met at Carlingview Hotel down in Toronto Strip and had our first meeting and introduction to the rest of the team. There was 23 members who went from the 7010 group. We landed in Montego Bay the following day to a launch with dignitaries and people who were going to receive the wheelchairs. The wheelchair distribution was brought over on a container, and it landed actually in Kingston, which was a little bit further away than what we needed it, so there was a little bit of a delay, but we all gathered there for the launch. So we were very pleased to get to the ceremony and begin giving the wheelchairs to the people who are needed. The Rotary Clubs of Jamaica had also formed an alliance and had helped us out a great deal by having applications brought in and authorized before we ever arrived. So as we progressed, it was much easier as we all got on to what was we were supposed to be doing, and we did travel from Montego Bay back into the hills of Jamaica, and it was quite an eye-opener actually. It's an event that if you have any opportunity to do or are able to, would certainly be a rewarding experience for anyone to do so. We were greeted also by the Rotary Club of Montego Bay and treated to an introductory dinner at the Sandals Montego Bay, which was a really nice spearhead of the operation. And we were there for approximately 6 days. During the course of that, we would work probably 8 hours during the day and relax probably by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The people that were receiving the wheelchairs, you're seeing some of the pictures now, and the certificates that they received that they put in the back of the wheelchair, and they're left in the back of the wheelchair. We suggest that they leave it there for identification and ownership. And you're seeing some of the pictures throughout the back hills of Jamaica. It's quite a beautiful country, but there's some great need there. You'll see the variety store as you go through these pictures. We were able to get a few things as we wanted it. It was a wonderful trip and a very rewarding trip for all, and I would recommend it to anyone that was able to.
Whoa, yo, yo. Whoa, yo, yo.
On February the 14th, 2005, 25 Rotarians from the Rotary Club of Barrie traveled to Nairobi, Kenya. We arrived at the Jomo Kenyatta Airport carrying our personal luggage and 25 large hockey bags filled with clothing, medical supplies, school books, and toys. The purpose of our trip was to gather information on an existing orphanage project in Kitale and to visit another in Eldoret so that we can get a feel for the project we were about to undertake. Shangalia in Eldoret is a children's home founded 5 years earlier by a Father Francis for some family members and an additional 20 children. But by 2005, that had mushroomed to 75 children and an additional 75 day scholars. We were greeted by about 150 children who simply wanted to know our names and just be hugged, affection being a rare commodity. We then took a tour of the facility, which consisted of several dormitories constructed mostly of tin. Inside were bunk beds, in which the children slept, 2 per bed. There was a main house with the only kitchen and Mama Joyce's supply room, and a latrine, which unfortunately sat uphill of the only well that they drew their drinking water from. Past President David Tisch and wife Karen performed 85 dental examinations and cleanings, and 20 extractions using nothing other than a pair of Canadian Tire pliers. Now the hockey bags. Every Rotarian contributed to the stuff, so we set out to organize ourselves, categorizing clothing for big kids, little kids, shoes, toys, school supplies. We helped each child get started by selecting a backpack, which Earl Graham had brought 85 of, and then proceeded to go on a shopping spree. We're not quite sure who had more fun. It was just like Christmas morning for both them and us. The project in Kitale was partnered with the Rotary Club of Eldoret. Baba Nimbani is operated by the Dove Christian Fellowship and is intended to provide food, shelter, and education for some 200 AIDS orphans. The center will also operate a rescue program affording the ability to help street children. The project is designed to be self-sustaining, using a small farm model along with some cows and chickens. In addition, the center will deliver on-site training in farming, woodworking, and sewing. The farm will not only grow food for the children, but will also afford income from the surplus to help the center's financial needs. Spending time with the children allowed us to talk about our world and theirs, hug, and just plain be there. But the real education was what we learned from them. Their life can be considered poor, but the way the children treated each other, holding hands, constantly sharing everything, and always looking out for the younger ones, gave them a wealth beyond money.
In January 2001, 25 Rotarians, family members, and friends left for Ecuador to undertake a humanitarian project. Although it was not the first time members of the club traveled to see an international project firsthand, it was the first time that a large group had gone to participate in the work of the project. The trip was inspired by late Rotarian Chris Mitchell, who with wife Sandy had traveled to Ecuador to participate in a medical mission. Our project was to assist in the funding and construction of a second water irrigation system for 2 villages located in the Andes in the area of Mount Chimborazo. Travel to our ultimate location was certainly not direct, with a flight to Houston, Houston to Panama City, and then to Ecuador's capital Quito, and then 5 hours by bus to Riobamba. Many of us were wearing only the clothing from the YMCA's Lost and Found, as some of the luggage did not arrive with us. In order to get matching funding from both the district and RI, we needed to partner with a local Rotary Club. However, the real promoter on the ground was Tom Walsh, a fellow from Brockville, Ontario, who has made his life's work enhancing the lives of the Indigenous in Ecuador. The native people, the Puruhu, are descendants of the Inca, and to look at them today, you would realize that much of their lives are no different than they would have been 300 years ago. They live in one-room mud huts with thatched roofs with no plumbing that not only house the family members but the livestock as well. One village, San Luis, was home to 16 families. The other, San Pablo, had 55 families. The women, still in traditional clothing, cooked on an open fire, grew the crops, and tended the animals. Our task while there was to help move rocks, carry and lay pipe in a gravity-fed irrigation system, the source being a tributary of the Amazon River. At one point, we were working at an elevation of 14,000 feet. Some of us were more fit than others, but we were all humbled watching the women do the same work with a baby strapped to their backs. It was remarkable to think that we had traveled 6,000 miles to work side by side with villagers who had nothing more than what could fit into a 10 by 10 room. Yet we shared fun in the evenings with them entertaining us with the music of their land, while Dennis Tuck and Bob Stewart showed them that anyone can be Elvis. They hosted us for lunches to show their appreciation, and although I am not sure that one of us would ever eat guinea pig again, I do believe that we had some of the best fried chicken ever. What was apparent was that they were giving us their best. Our trip was not without excitement. We seemed to be in the middle of a power struggle between villages that meant that our route to the work site was impeded by huge rocks, making it necessary to either detour or walk. We experienced a flash flood on our afternoon off, which left tremendous damage to the fish farm where hours earlier we had picked up our lunch. That same evening, some of our new friends helped themselves to some libations, and some of us were awakened by gunshots. The project was a simple one, which is what made it a good project. We were not introducing anything foreign to the ways of the people. We were merely enhancing their lives by giving more of what they needed, which was water to grow more food. One had to wonder when we saw computers in a community center that had been built through charitable funding, whether such blatant exposure to the rest of the world would be a positive development. You could only think that this civilization exists in harmony because of the very fragile balance of tradition and limited outside exposure. As with any trip like this, the success is measured by the work accomplished and by the relationships that are forged. One gets to see their friends in a very different way, be it their physical strength or their strength of character. One thing that is for sure is that the memories made are not soon forgotten.
The year that Bob Stewart was chair of the International Committee, we allocated $10,000 to patient monitors for an intensive care unit in the public hospital in Bahadar, Ethiopia. For various reasons, it's taken until now, 2011, to make it happen, but we have, and it's an amazing success story. I just returned from Ethiopia last night. I went for the official ceremonies for the intensive care unit. The unit is in the public hospital. It's a 6-bed unit. It serves 5 million people, and people were so thankful that they were stopping us on the street to say thank you. The Ecumenical Council took us out to dinner to say thank you, and we got a lot of the credit. In fact, we made the national news, but it was a partnership by a number of people. We had contributions from the Rotary Club of Barrie, Huronia, the regional president of Amhara region in Ethiopia wrote a letter exempting the equipment from customs duties. That seems a no-brainer on our part, but it did happen. The hospital has found the room for the intensive care unit, and they have assigned 2 doctors full-time to this unit. The supplier of the medical equipment, the Afro-German chemical company in Addis Ababa, is actually owned by a Rotarian. When we started this project almost 5 years ago, he gave us a pro forma invoice that was good for 6 months. Needless to say, the US dollar is not worth what it was 4 or 5 years ago, but he absorbed the difference to make this happen. I can't say enough about Abina, my partner in the Bahadar Rotary Club. He has worked so diligently on this and has really made it happen. So I think you should be proud of yourselves as members of the Rotary Club of Barrie that we have definitely made a difference.